It's Will True here, your financial engineer, and you know what day it is. It's Tuesday, so 2 minute on the counter. Let's go. So following on from last week's 2 Minute Tuesdays, we were talking about gross yield. This week we're going to be talking about net rental yield. And what is the difference? Well, let's recap what is gross rental yield. It was taking the annual rental income divided by the purchase price. This week it's all about including the operating costs to run your investment property, and that's what separates really great property investors versus good and average property investors out there. Because when you're buying an investment property and you understand the numbers, you're treating it like a business. Whereas if you're a good and average investor out there, most of the time it's actually mum and dads who've got pent up equity in their house and they extract it and they go out house hunting, but they're buying it as if they're living in it, so they're not treating it like a business. So hence why we got to understand what is the net rental yield when buying investment property. Now, what is net rental yield? Well, the calculation is again quite simple. It's taking the annual rental income minus the annual operating expenses divided by the purchase price. So what is included in the annual operating expenses? Well, most typically it will include your insurance, your rates, your property management fees, your maintenance costs, and also the interest rate that you're paying to service this investment property. Now, some people or some property investors don't include the interest rate. I like to include it because I want to know exactly how much this investment property is going to cost. And alright, let me give you an example of how to calculate net rental yield, but first let's recap what that formula is. It is taking the annual rental income minus the annual operating expenses divided by the purchase price. Assuming that you found an investment property that costs $800,000 and the rental appraisal comes out at $750 per week. Now, to buy this investment property, you've got to take out a mortgage of 80% of the value of the property. So 80% times $800,000 will give you a mortgage of $640,000 because the bank requires to have 20% deposit, which is $160,000. How do you calculate annual rental income? Well, take that $750 times 52 weeks in a year gives you an annual rental income of $39,000. And now we can calculate the annual operating costs. Now, what is in it? Well, let's say the insurance is going to cost $1,000 a year. The rates are going to be $2,000 a year. The property management fees is 7%, and that's going to cost $2,700 per year. The maintenance on having this property is going to cost you $4,000 per year, and how I got that was I took 0.5% of the value of the property, which came out at $4,000. Some people like to take 1%. There are actually multiple ways of calculating maintenance costs. That's how I do it. And then also I will include the interest rate, and as of November 2020 the advertised rate for 1 year fixed rate is 2.49%. so we're going to take $640,000 times 2.49%, and it's going to be interest only. It's going to cost $16,000 in interest to service this investment property. So $39,000 is your income minus the operating expenses, gives you an income of $13,300 per year. Take that number divided by the purchase price will give you a net yield of 1.7%. Now, is that a good number? Well, it really depends. But first, I know for a fact that A, it's cash flow positive, B, I don't need to top up my mortgage. But how do I make an informed decision to buy this investment property or not? Well, this is again another little bit of information. So to recap, net rental yield is taking the annual income minus the operating expenses divided by the purchase price. Now that you've got gross yield and net yield under your belt, next week we're going to cover off return on investment, and having these three numbers will give you a much more informed answer to decide if you want to buy this investment property or not. I really enjoy making these videos, so thumbs if you liked it, subs if you loved it. I'll see you guys next week. Have a good one.